Thank you for coming back to Polka Dot Mailbox, and if you're new, welcome. Today I am working with On a Whim bundle from the Polka Dot Mailbox Deal of the Week. This collection is from Amy Tangerine, has beautiful papers, vibrant colors, whimsical designs, and I am going to make a tag flip. So what I'm doing here is I'm just flipping through the 6x6 notepad, which contains 36 sheets of paper, and I'm designing this with the idea of having different colors in the background, more subtle patterns than repeating patterns. So I'm going to take each of these 6x6 pieces of paper and I'm trimming them down. Now you can do this to any size. I just picked something that looked good to my eye. You can use a corner rounder to trim off the edge. You can cut a straight line on the sides of each paper to make a sharper edge. There's any number of ways you could use fancier corner rounders. You could make them longer, shorter. You could change up your size, but I decided for this tag flip to just keep everything the same. I'm going to go in with a hole punch. I used the other tag that I've already punched to line up the next tag just to make sure that they're all equal. As you will notice in my scrapbooking, card making projects, I never measure, or I rarely measure. If there's any way around measuring, I prefer it. So I'm going to take some crepe paper and just take a strip of glue with my glue gun and pinch together a little fringe. I'm going to be covering it up so it's not going to be something that will be visible. I'm working here with one of the die cut shapes that comes from the ephemera pack. You get 40 die cut shapes. You can see some of them here. Lots of really interesting, fun designs, as well as there are some that are foiled with pink foil. That's something that's pretty rare. I haven't seen that. I don't know if I've ever seen pink foil before. So that was really cute. A nice element, definitely, to add to your project, something's different. So I'm going to play around quite a bit with the different layering ideas, but I definitely decide to go and put the words along the bottom. So you could come in with any thickers and choose any sentiment that match for your tag flip. You'll see me use a lot of doilies throughout a lot of my projects. I really like the texture it gives in the background, the way that it stops things from just sort of floating. It really adds a nice touch. It's something that you'll find I do a lot. So with this tag flip, I'm going to play around quite a bit. I'm looking at all the different inflated ephemera that you get with this bundle, and there are 6 different inflated ephemera to choose from. There's the pineapple, watermelon, pizza, donut, camera, and flamingo. And in the end, I'm going to go ahead and use just one of the paper ephemera flamingos that come in the collection. Even though I'm going to try with a lot of different choices here, I'm going to play around with it quite a bit. So if you're wondering what you would use these tag flips for, this is something that you could give to a pen pal in Happy Mail. That's something that you'll see used quite a bit. I would see a lot of YouTubers making these tag flips for their pen pals, and I was kind of wondering what the idea was. Is it something that you just send to them so they could see all these beautiful, gorgeous products put together in these unique, fun ways, and do they just keep them? But I think the idea is that you could use them. In fact, this is what I would do, is I would use them on a layout. So you could use it as a focal point on a layout, and it's already a really nice embellishment that's designed and all the work's done for you. And then you could remember your special pen pal that made it for you, or you could make it yourself and have them done ahead of time so that when you are putting a layout together, then you can put these in place, just lay them over top and move them around. And because it's such a big feature, it would be something that would really add a lot to your layout, and the other elements could be kept very simple. One thing I am going to point out, though, if you notice the ephemera, like the pizza sitting in the bottom corner, they have these little circle tags, and that's going to work out really well for me for this tag flip, because I'm going to be able to come in with a binder ring and put them all together and include some of those ephemera within the tag flip itself. But warning, don't try to cut those little circles off, because if you do, the whole inflated ephemera will come apart. They're not meant to be tampered with. So that's something to keep in mind. Some of them don't have those little rings, but there certainly are uses for them, or you could hide them, tuck them into a layering situation. But yeah, definitely don't try cutting them off. So here I'm creating another tag for the little flip I'm putting together, and I'm going to have the tedious task of poking out every single one of those little cactus little pieces that there are that come. The cut aparts have, or so the ephemera have, quite a few of these elements that, like you can see the word hey hey that I had to punch out. Well, it's just 6 letters. It's not a big deal, but that was quite a lot of work with that cactus. So here I'm going to come in with some tulle, and I'm just again adding a layer of texture. It's not something that you're going to see a lot. It's not something that's really going to stand out, but I'm going to take it away and sew a black thread down the side, and then I'm going to cut the tulle off, so it really is just leaving a very little subtle fringe. And it's hard to pick up on the camera, but it adds a nice different sort of element. I'm trying to keep the theme of having black in each of the flips, so adding some sort of a sewn element, even if it's just subtle and on one side or in a background, is nice to keep consistency between everything. So with this flip that I'm making here, I really could see this tag being used for a trip. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and in the end make it very travel themed. And I really like the way that these two colors are coming together. And again, I'm just taking all the pieces from the ephemera and layering them together. It was a little tricky getting the glue in amongst the paper so I don't have any glue sticking out. So something else that I'll do is I'll take those pop dots and then I'll still glue them, even though the adhesive on them is just pretty reliable. When I'm doing something such as a tag flip like this that might be moving around a lot, I want to make sure that it's really well adhered. So one thing that I didn't hardly touch at all in this bundle for this project were the stickers. There's an entire sticker book that comes with 421 of the Amy Tangerine stickers, and they have foil. Some of them are white, some of them are clear. I do go ahead and use some of those in my planner, and I think that that's a really good option. So I'm just tucking some tags in. As you saw, I used the tag punch, and I actually punched along the edge so it created a border naturally just from the paper that was there. So there's a perforated edge between the two different patterns. And one thing I like to do there is just bundle up some thread, again just bringing a touch of that black in place, tucking it in behind, adds a little messiness, which is kind of fun. I'm eventually going to pick up that Let's Go and decide that it should be in place there. And I really like that. I'm going to go ahead and glue everything down. This project actually took quite a few hours and a number of different sessions to and fro. I can sit there and play with things and debate and second guess. And in the end, I could have gone with any number of things and been happy. So that foam is a really handy way of getting dimension to a project. It's from Michaels, and there was a stack. So one side already has the adhesive on it, and the other side is plain. So it allows you to stick the foam back to the item that you want to stick down, and then you can move it around and see what it looks like with the dimension that it has. So here I'm going to create a shaker pocket. One thing that I find with shaker pockets, less is more. You definitely don't want to put too many sequins in, so it has a lot of room to move and you can see all the different ones. Here I'm actually delving into my children's bead collection and I really like the noise that having a few rolling around beads makes in there when you give it a shake. So that's why I'll go in and I'll look for colors that match. And those last pink sequins I got in my SCT sampler. If any of you don't know what that is, that's the Scrapbook and Cards Today. They have a monthly subscription where every month you get a little sample. It's kind of like Ipsy for scrapbooking. We get a little sample of some of the newest products that are out there. And sometimes you get full packages. And that one time we did get a full package of that sequin mix. So again, there's this beautiful foil that I really like. And that pink flower, it's going to just stand in the background. But wow, it really adds a nice element and texture. I'm going to go ahead and decide to keep this all monochromatic, and as you may have noticed at the beginning of the video, this becomes the front page of my tag flip. And again, I used the black thread to sew that tulle in place. At one point, I considered putting a really fine glitter in it, and then I looked at the tulle and looked at the size of the glitter, and I was pretty sure that the glitter would come out of that tulle. So I went ahead and just used some of the bigger beads and sequins to create that background. And what I'm doing here is I'm finding all the elements that I want to have, and I'm actually going to keep them layered all together, and I'm going to put them in place so that I can glue them just off to the left without there being that much adhered on the rest of the card. And the reason why I'm going to do that is so that when someone shakes it or when it moves, you're going to get that movement of the sequence all the way up and down the tag flip. Like I said, I could sit here for hours, and I do, just playing with the different combinations. So you see here how I'm not gluing things to the shaker pocket itself, I'm gluing them to themselves as a cluster and building it up that way. And then I'll be able to just come in and glue it on to the project without having it interfere with those sequins in the back. So Polka Dot Mailbox is a new online scrapbooking, planning, journaling, paper craft loving community, and the idea was to make some of the best brands and favorite products more accessible to Canadians. It's difficult to get a lot of the items in Canada, where I am specifically. So that's why I thought it would be great to source out some good deals and be able to bring the same sort of deals that are available in the US to Canada. And the idea is that we really try to find things that have been discounted. So a lot of the times that may mean that they're discontinued or they're a little bit older. And in that case, the American community is finding us as well, because sometimes they wish that they had bought that one collection and they can't get it anymore. So now this is their last chance to be able to find it. And really, I mean, all these products are amazing. I'm surprised companies don't actually do repeats of their products, because there's constantly new people coming into this paper crafting community. And some of them have never had a chance to work with these products. And when things get discontinued, then they're hard to find. And then they become either expensive or you just can't get them. So it's nice. And I mean, the products are all gorgeous and fun. And really, it's just great to be able to use things that match the theme of what you're doing. I could see this tag flip itself being very useful when I go to Las Vegas. I have a trip coming up in a couple of weeks, and I think that desert cactus and relax with the airplane, the flamingos. I remember being in Vegas last time. One of the hotels had flamingos like off the restaurant, so I could see that tag flip being useful for when I put together a little album. And in fact, that's sort of what I had in mind when I put this all together. So here I'm going to come in with the 3 tags all at once and try to be more efficient in my ideas about which die cuts I want to go on which tag, because I thought if I laid them all out, then maybe I could stick with sort of a monochromatic theme. I'm just looking for a background paper to really make the words stand out on the I'm just trying to think if I go ahead and if I use that color or not. I guess I did. For some reason I thought I went with a green. But I'm going to go and add some stitching to that circle. Now that's something I have never done before. I have never stitched in a circular pattern. For those of you who don't know, there's the stitching done. I never stitch on anything other than paper. I have a sewing machine and all I use it for is paper. I don't think it's ever seen cloth. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this a food themed tag and use up some of those things like the taco truck and ice cream. And you'll notice that when I did do the sewing around the edge, it's not perfectly circular, which I was kind of going for a messy sort of look. And it was something I'm sure I'll get better at over time. But a lot of it gets hidden by the different elements that I'm placing over top. So in the end, you don't really see a lot of it. but I'm happy with the way it'll turn out in the end. I'm going to pop up that ice cream so that it stands up a little bit more. It seemed to sort of be standing up naturally on its own, and I wanted to make sure that it was adhered in place. And I glued down those letters again, even though they are sticky on the back. It's nice to go in with a little bit of glue on each of the ends and just make sure that they stay where they're supposed to. So when I'm done all 6 of these tags, I've used up a good amount of the kit, but I still have quite a few paper and stickers left, and even a few of the inflated ephemera and the die cut ephemera, which will be handy when I want to go and use these flips for a layout. I can go in and I still have quite a bit left. One thing that was interesting that I heard someone say one time is that the less you have, the more you make. And this was in reference to going to a crop, which is totally true, because if you think about how much you can accomplish, if you don't have so many things to sort through and look through, you're kind of forced to get creative and use up supplies that you have. So that's one thing that has stuck with me, and it really is true. So there you see I've added the binder ring, and I'm starting to put the tag flip together, and I'm putting those ephemera pieces in place using the circles that I was mentioning, which are perfectly functional for this purpose. So I really liked that. And that was, if you are sending that to a pen pal, then they do have these little gifts hidden amongst the tag flip that are independent elements that act on their own that can be used for a project. So this is the sticker book that you haven't seen a lot of. I decided to try to pull some black in, again sticking consistent with the theme of carrying a little bit of black accents throughout. And yeah, I didn't really use a lot of this book. I kind of forgot about it. There were so many other die cuts and papers and elements that were easy to put this together. It was sort of pushed to the side, but I'm looking forward to using it to decorate my planner. So you'll see again, I've added some stitching. When I noticed that the letters were punched out, I thought this is a good opportunity to put something in the back that wouldn't normally be something that would be easy to add. So I went in and put a little bit of stitching straight in line across, and then again it brings that consistent element of the black stitches, very subtle little pattern, brings more attention to the saying that's on there. At this point I don't really know what direction I'm going with this. I realize that palm tree is really not going to show very well or stand out. So I come in with this cute little pineapple, and I like the way that looks. It's subtle, but it will be a nice sort of element with the palm leaves in the background that are on the tag itself. So again, I'm going to stick fairly monochromatic on this tag as well. I'm just going to stick with those blues and greens and the little accents of black. And I will put those stars in the place there, some pop dots to make the saying stand up over top of the stars so that they're sort of floating in the background and behind. And I'm just going to go ahead and randomly grab a piece of tulle and just put it in place, and again brings another texture in, very subtle, not something that you can see really well on the camera, but in person it adds a nice touch. I'm going to bring the paper pad back in a minute here and use the butterfly punch that I have. This is probably one of my most used punches. Like, that's a shape punch. That's not just like a square or a circle. It's a really nice way to add an element, especially because you can flip the wings up and just glue the center of the butterfly down. I'll come in at the end and I'll add some sparkles down the center to make it look like the body of the butterfly. So I really enjoy doing that. And then again, it just adds another layer of dimension. It brings in some of those pattern papers that I have lots of, and then I'm just going to stick it on place, and those glue guns are great. So I'm going to go ahead and add some sparkle to the pineapple on the top there. Some of the other tags are quite sparkly, especially the first one that has all the sequins in behind. So I tried to put a little bit of sparkle on each of the pages. Still trying to fit those glasses in. But in the end, I leave them out. Okay, I have another one to add to my collection here. Happy with the way that this is coming together. Just have one last one to go. I'll show you through. So I decided that I didn't like that there were two strong pink tags back to back, so I'm going to come back in and add this next one in that is colorful. Again, that really pretty pink foil. If you've seen pink foil on something else before, comment down below and let me know, because I think this is the first time I've ever worked with it and the first time I've ever come across it. I got some of that glue in between the letters, so I was just trying to poke it out with a pencil so that it didn't show in place underneath there. So this, again, I'm trying to keep monochromatic with a lot of the pinks. And again, I'm going to tie in some tulle. That was just like a piece of scrap tulle that was left over from something I cut off of one of the other tag project parts that I was working with. Those letters that say love, all of those puffy stickers came from, I think they're from a Good Vibes kit that I got from the Crop and Create. I went to one of the classes and I think we used one of the sayings on the project that was for the class that I went to, and then I had a whole sheet of these stickers with fantastic sayings on them. So I decided that they actually worked really well with this collection, and because again I was keeping consistent with tying in a little bit of black, and if you'll notice on the sticker book, one of the words was chill. That so even the sentiments themselves are very suited to this bundle that I'm working with. I'm going to another Crop and Create. They are coming to our city in in November. I went to Winnipeg in March for a Crop and Create. And if you've never been to a Crop and Create, it is a fantastic experience. It's a weekend crop with fun prizes, amazing women who run it. There's a photo booth, there's make and takes, there's usually a different vendor. One that we have comes from Winnipeg in our city. And again, it's just such a great weekend away. But I'll tell you, it's exhausting. It is really tiring because you are going from 3 till midnight on Friday. Saturday is 8 a.m. till midnight, and Sunday's 8 a.m. till 4. And you know how much work scrapbooking is. Although I always say it's amazing how little we can get accomplished in such a long time. Anybody that doesn't scrapbook and knows that we go to these is like, what do you do for all those hours? It's like the time just flies by. So here's a final flip through of all of the cards. Really happy. This is the very first tag flip that I've ever made, and it was really a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more videos, and we'll see you again next time.